This week I've been driving the 2021 Jeep Cherokee. This is the new Latitude LUX trim level. So let's spend some time, take a look around it, see what we got. Then we'll jump in, take it for a drive, take a look at the interior quality. I'm gonna give you my thoughts on this, the good, the bad, the ugly, and we'll call that a review. Let's get into it. All right, before we get into anything else with the vehicle, the Cherokee does come in a bunch of different trims. You have the Latitude is the base trim, then you move up to a Latitude Plus, then you have the Altitude, and then this new trim, the Latitude LUX. And the new Latitude LUX trim comes available with dual pane panoramic sunroof, premium 9-speaker Alpine sound system, and the 8.4-inch touchscreen infotainment system. We'll get into all of that as we go through the vehicle. Next up is the 80th anniversary edition, which basically takes that Latitude LUX and adds a little bit to it. Then you jump into the limited trim, and then one of my personal favorite, the Trailhawk, and then finally the high altitude. And depending on the trim level that you can get this thing in front wheel drive only or a 4x4 configuration. This one that we're in is the 4x4, which is good. We'll do a little bit of off-roading and talk some about that later. But for now, let's jump into the exterior design. First off, that color is slate blue pearl. It is a pretty nice color. I do like it. It's a darker blue. Definitely looks good on this vehicle, so I'm happy about that. Now, the Cherokee's design hasn't really changed in the last few years. We do have the LED headlights with LED daytime running lights and LED fog lights, and those come standard on this Latitude LUX. This is a crossover that's trying to prove to you that it is a Jeep. We do have the unmistakable 7-slot Jeep grille with the Jeep badge there on the top of the hood. Other than that, there's not too much that screams Jeep about the vehicle, but that doesn't mean it's not capable. So let's continue around. Looking at the side profile, again, definitely a crossover look, but you do have that nice plastic cladding over the wheel arches and around the rock plate to minimize paint damage. Those are 17-inch by 7-inch satin carbon aluminum wheels that look really good on this vehicle. We do just have regular street tires. This definitely looks better when it has the beefier off-road tires. You can see the chrome bezel that goes around the entire cabin, tying together all of the windows. You also have the chrome roof rails. Heading around the back, you have those LED tail lights, the 4x4 badge, the Latitude badge, and you have the dual exhaust coming out the back. And again, overall, it's an okay looking design. Nothing too special. Definitely a crossover, which is one of the reasons I really like the Trailhawk version of this. I think it looks a lot better, even though it still has the same shape and everything. You can get a lot of little bits on it that make it look more Jeepy, more aggressive. But if you're getting something to haul around town and you don't want all those extras, it's a decent looking crossover. Let's pop the hatch, take a look at the cargo area, and then we'll talk about the engine and different engine options that you get with the Cherokee. So with the Latitude LUX, you do get a power lift gate. Push a button here, push a button on the key, push a button inside, it will open automatically. Total cargo volume here is 25.8 cubic feet, which is a pretty respectable number. Not huge, but pretty good. You do get a 60-40 split rear seat that can fold down and give you extra cargo volume if you need it. You also get a little accessory power port. You get these little tie down hooks here. You get little cubbies for putting stuff. The actual tray for your cargo is a little bit lower than the lip here. So if you've got stuff that's rolling around back there, if you're on an incline, it's not going to fall out if you open the hatch here. Got a nice big speaker with the Jeep logo on it. Again, all in all, a pretty smart design, a nice look. But let's move to the front of the vehicle, pop that hood, and check out the engine. All right guys, and like I said, there are a few different engine options that you get in the Cherokee. You can get a 2-liter turbocharged engine that pushes 270 horsepower, 295 foot-pounds of torque. That can tow up to 4,000 pounds and has an EPA rating of 23 city, 31 highway. You can also get the 2.4-liter Tiger Shark multi-air engine that has 180 horsepower, 171 foot-pounds of torque, can tow up to about 2,000 pounds and has an EPA rating of 22 city, 31 highway. Or you can get the 3.2-liter Pentastar V6 engine like we have in this vehicle, and that has 271 horsepower, 239 foot-pounds of torque, can tow up to 4,500 pounds. It's matched up to the 9-speed automatic transmission and has an EPA rating of 20 miles per gallon city, 29 miles per gallon highway. And when we jump in and take it for a drive, I'll show you what we've been averaging for the full week that we've had this vehicle. But all in all, I think that Pentastar V6, it's a pretty solid engine and probably the option that I would choose if I was buying a Cherokee. But with that, let's close up the hood. Let's jump inside, take a look at the interior, take a look at the tech in this vehicle, and then we'll take it for a drive. All right, so let's start off in the rear seats here. They are nice, they are comfortable. I got decent headroom, although it scrapes a little bit. I'm 6'1", if you didn't know. So if you're any taller, definitely the rear seats are not for you. These seats do tilt back a little bit, helps out a little bit. And like I said, it is a 60-40 split. So if you need to fold them completely down, you can do that. Materials back here are really nice, just as nice as the front. So that's good. You get a nice pull down armrest, cup holders, perforated leather. You get your own AC and heat vents. You get your own power outlets, as well as 2 USB Type A and 2 USB Type C ports. And that dual pane moonroof comes all the way back past the rear seat. Very nice. But like I said, we spent a full week in this thing. I had the kids 3 wide back here. We did some driving in it. We went a few places, so no complaints from them. The Cherokee managed pretty well on that front. So all in all, gets a thumbs up for the family. But obviously, if you need a bigger SUV, Jeep does that as well. Let's go ahead and jump up into that front seat, take a look at the rest of the interior, take a look at all the tech in this vehicle, and then we'll take it for a drive. All right, and welcome to the front of the Cherokee. And this Latitude LUX is a really nice vehicle. You got a lot of really nice materials in here. Our interior comes with the premium leather trimmed bucket seats with black and sky gray interior colors. All pretty decent materials. These leather seats are really nice. Some of the other materials in the cabin aren't great. Some of the plastics are a little bit tough, especially up here in the dash. But all in all, for this segment at this price, not bad. Let me give you a closer look around. All right, and these seats are Napa leather trimmed seats. Driver's seat is 8-way power adjustable. The passenger seat is 4-way power adjustable. Both are heated and cooled seats. You do get a leather shift knob, a leather steering wheel, and the steering wheel is also heated. Now it is a push button start, so let's go ahead and turn it on and start looking at some of the tech in here. Starting on the left side of the steering wheel, you do have all your lighting controls. Moving to the steering wheel, you do have controls for the driver info screen and for the infotainment. And for your cruise control, infotainment controls are on the back of the steering wheel. Volume controls on one side, switching tracks or stations on the other. Looking closer at that driver information display, it's a decent display. You can cycle through quite a few different screens here, which is nice for sure. Moving over to the right-hand side of the steering wheel, first off, you get this little Jeep cubby up here. It is rubbery in here, so whatever you put in here isn't going to be rolling around too much, but the top of it is kind of a cheaper plastic. This is that 8.4-inch touchscreen display running Uconnect 4 or C. Really great infotainment system. My only slight gripe is some of the things that you do quite often aren't physical buttons, but you have to go into the screen. So stuff like your heated seats and heated steering wheel. You have to tap climate, then tap this button, then you can turn them on. Not terrible, but I would like some physical buttons for those, because especially when it's cold. You hit those really often. Now, whenever you do start the car, you do have a chance, a few seconds, to click those before the screen comes up. So that's a nice feature there. You also have some apps here with some quick action buttons, including your backup camera. Again, Uconnect is one of those systems that I've never had any issues with. Always seemed like a really good system, and it looks good here as well. Moving down from that, we have our hazard button or parking sensors and lane detect system. This isn't an assist system. It doesn't keep you in the lanes, but it is a warning system. So it will warn you as you're pushing out of the lanes. Next, we have a screen off button, your auto start stop off button, traction control button, and then some of your AC and heat buttons here. Moving even further down, you do have your terrain select dial, so you can go from snow, sport to sand and mud. We'll talk more about this as we drive the vehicle, but it's a nice chunky dial, and it takes a little bit of effort to spin, so it feels good as you're switching. Then you have some of your connectivity here. You have an aux port and a USB type A port. And it's worth noting that you get the USB type A here for interfacing with the infotainment system, and you get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but you don't get any USB type C ports here like you do in the back. But you do get one more USB port here in the console. With that, you see we have our traditional gear shifter here, leather wrapped, leather boots. Feels good in the hand, nice and chunky, nice and clicky. We have our electronic parking brake and some cup holders. And then moving to the top, we have our dual pane panoramic moonroof controls here. And of course, we also have that 9-speaker Alpine sound system that comes in the Latitude LUX, and it sounds pretty good. All right, with that, let's get this thing out on the road. Let's take it for a drive. Try to find somewhere where we can do a little bit off-road, and then we'll wrap it up talking about the price, competition, and some of my final thoughts. Let's go. All right, so first off, to answer the first question, the EPA rating is 20 to 29 miles per gallon, 20 city, 29 highway. Our average during our full week of basically regular driving here is 22.4 miles to the gallon. We haven't even done anything to really push this hard. We've let it idle a little bit as we're out shooting it, but I think that's a good representation of normal everyday driving. But we do have a sport mode in here, so let's check it out really quickly. Let's get to this little bit of a straight. Come to a dead stop. Put it into sport mode. All right, we're in sport mode, and let's just accelerate, see how it sounds, and see how quickly it goes. Ready, set, go. $60. It's not terrible, and that Pentastar V6 does sound pretty good. But it gets up and goes if you need it to. It actually feels pretty quick, pretty torquey if you need to get up on a highway or pass somebody. It's definitely not sluggish. It's not fast, but it is a little quick. Taking it out of sport mode and just putting it into auto mode, which allows it to be a little bit more comfortable. It drives pretty smoothly. There's not a ton of wind or road noise, although it is present. It basically feels and sounds like a normal, traditional crossover, which might be what you're going for. I can tell you it's a pretty comfortable ride. The seats are really nice, interior's nice, everything's laid out pretty well. Again, like I already mentioned, I wish there was a few more physical buttons that you didn't have to dive directly into the screen to get to. But that's not a huge deal. You can adjust the driver's seat to be pretty comfortable. I wish the steering wheel was a little bit more adjustable, would come out a little bit more to be a little bit closer to me without me having to scoot the seat up even more. But that's kind of the personal preference on the way that I like to sit in a vehicle. Of course, it's a Jeep, and this is the 4x4 option. You can get this in front-wheel drive, but I honestly don't know why you're buying a Jeep if you're getting a front-wheel drive vehicle. But this one does have the 4x4, and you do get a snow mode. Don't get to test that out a lot in Texas, but hey, we had a pretty bad snowstorm not too long ago. Sand and mud is what you would want to put it in if you're doing pretty much anything else here in Texas. We don't have rock climbing here, but definitely if you're going a little off-road to park for a baseball game or a concert or a little bit of off-roading trails that we do have, that sand and mud is going to be just fine for you. This does just have the street tires on it, so if you plan on doing something like that, often I would put some beefier tires. I would definitely recommend the Trailhawk if that's something you plan on doing, but it's not necessary if you want a little bit of the comfort that you get with the Latitude LUX or even one of the higher options. This will handle probably 80 to 90% of anything that the owner of one of these would do. If you're doing anything more serious than what this can do, you probably want a more serious off-roading vehicle. You do have some safety features in here. The backup camera, you've got sensors on it to let you know if you're getting too close to stuff, but you don't get the 360 camera. You get the lane warning, but you don't get a lane keeping assist. You get cruise control, but you don't get the radar guided cruise control. So if you're looking for more of those safety and autonomous features, you're definitely going to want to look at another vehicle. So let's find a place to pull back over. Let's talk about the price of this vehicle and the range of Cherokee vehicles, and then we'll talk about the competition. I'll give you some of my final thoughts and we'll wrap this video up. All right, guys, so let's start wrapping this up by talking about the price and competition. First off, the base price for a base Latitude is $26,755. The Latitude LUX base is at just under $32,000. But of course, you can option the Cherokee up to in the 40s, which is a lot of money for a crossover SUV like this. But if you're getting all the off-roading features and stuff like that, it starts to make a little bit of sense for the money that you're paying. Obviously, if you are looking for more serious off-roading, there are a lot of options from Jeep. It just depends exactly what you're doing and exactly your budget. If you're staying in this segment, but looking at some of the competition, you could look at vehicles like the Mazda CX-5, which we've recently reviewed and I quite like. But that's more of a on-road, more sporty, more tech-centric vehicle. So if that's something that you're looking for, definitely check out that CX-5. You could also look at the Volkswagen Tiguan, which again is a really nice vehicle. Has some really cool tech in it. We've reviewed not too long ago as well. And Volkswagen has some pretty good off-roading cred, although I've never taken the Tiguan on any off-roading courses. Next, you have something like the Honda CR-V, which is great for reliability and just a standard hauling around car. Nothing too flashy about it, nothing too sporty about it, nothing too techy about it. Not going to get you anywhere off-road, but a decent option for an everyday vehicle. Finally, we'll talk about the Toyota RAV4, which again I think is a really good looking vehicle. They don't have as much of the tech as like the CX-5. It's not meant to be sporty, but you can get the TRD off-road version of that, and it handles itself really well off-road. So with those things in mind and the price of the vehicle, I've got some final thoughts on this one. Let's jump back out of this Cherokee. I'll give you my final thoughts and we'll wrap this video up. All right, guys, so let's talk a little final thoughts about the Cherokee and my personal opinion with it. First off, I'll go ahead and say these Jeeps have a terrible reputation with quality. I've never driven one more than a week or so. All of them that I've driven have been pretty new, but I do know people that own them that say they've had problems. I definitely hear it in the comment section of people having problems. And for that specific reason, I've kind of steered away from ever owning one of these. Now the Wrangler is a whole different story. The Grand Cherokee is a little bit of a different story, but I know these smaller Jeeps, some of the parts in them or some of the attention to detail is definitely not there as it is with the other Jeeps. Like I already mentioned, there are definitely a lot of great options for competition with this thing. If you're just using it as a daily driver, there's a ton that I would get over this vehicle. If you are looking for a smaller crossover to do some semi-serious off-roading, the Trailhawk is actually a really great option for this one. I think it looks better, definitely is a lot more rugged, and can do a lot more off-road. But again, if this is just a grocery getter back and forth to the office or anything like that, I would probably be looking at something else. With that, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button, leave me a comment below, let me know what you think. Go check out TXGARAGE.com for more written reviews, news coverage, and event coverage. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.